Those present today are members of the committee, together with any substitutes who are attending, plus any other member that chooses to attend, and officers. So once again, we're here in Committee Room 1, which is our hybrid meeting room. Just a few points to bear in mind for those who are picking this up on a YouTube channel. The speakers and camera will track you as you pick up and start to speak. Please continue to speak clearly and do not whisper. Please keep other sounds to a minimum. I warn you in advance, the microphone system is very, very sensitive. If there's something you don't want other people to know about, then don't mention it, because some people have, to their regret, later on said, "Oh, I didn't realise it was that good." So as I say, they will pick up conversations. And as I say, this is particularly important because we're live streaming on YouTube, and the recording of the meeting will be available afterwards. From a compliance point of view, we're not expecting a fire drill this morning, so if the alarm does go off, please follow the officers out of the building and into the cathedral grounds. Can I ask you, and I'll do it myself, to make sure that your phones or other devices are in either switched off or neutral position, and I'd rather we had the opportunity to keep them and focus upon a meeting today. So the agenda has been circulated. First off, is there anybody that hasn't got a copy of the agenda? Okay. I'd like to welcome Jude Deakin to the committee, and I'd also like to welcome back Sue Lissamore. So it's a pleasure to have you here. And Jude, it's the same. We are saying goodbye to our outgoing member, Andy Wiles, who sadly is not well at all. And I take this opportunity of thanking him on behalf of the committee for his work today and other things. And we all wish him a speedy recovery. So on page 4, we're asked to note apologies and substitutions. Justin, do we have apologies and substitutions?
So apologies received from Councillor Gadd and Councillor Skeel.
I've just had a phone call from Councillor Platt, who says that Councillor Honeywood won't be here. He is, I'm sure it's promotion. I think he's being moved somewhere. I wasn't quite sure where he's being moved, but he won't be here today. This is the opportunity if you have a need to make any declarations of interest. So if you have a declaration of interest to make now, and I remind you that if not, you can make it during the course of the meeting. So Justin, anything else apart from that and declarations of interest, anybody? Okay, please feel free to make them during the meeting. A point of order, we need to appoint vice chairman. Just to remind you, the vice chairman are appointed for a year, a 12-month period of time. And historically, whilst it isn't a legal requirement, the practice on this committee has been to have 2 vice chairmen, one of which was from the administration and one of those not from the administration. I don't have the authority to appoint them on my own, but I can make my own nominations, and so can anybody else. So I'd like to propose Councillor Fleming as one of the vice chairmen. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Garnett. Thank you very much. I think we do each one at a time, do we? Or do we do the 2 together?
You can do the 2 together.
Do the 2 together. Okay. I'd like to propose Councillor Deakin as the second vice chairman. Do I have a seconder? No second. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Are there any other nominations that we'd like to make on behalf of other people, or would anybody like to promote themselves? Rush of hands I can see. So in the absence of any other nominations, they will be elected by common consent without a vote. So I'd just like to ask Councillor Fleming and Councillor Deakin if they'd like to make any comments. It's a good opportunity.
I think it's nice to be back.
Okay, lovely. Right, the minutes of the meeting being circulated, pages 6 to 10. We need to approve as a correct record of the minutes of the meeting held on the 23rd of May. Having been circulated, are the members happy for me to approve those minutes? Thank you. Are there any questions or matters arising which are not covered either in the work programme or other points in the agenda? Thank you. Item 4 is questions from the public. As far as I'm aware, we haven't received, whilst we encourage questions from the public and do want them, at the moment we don't have any, as I understand it.
No questions from the public.
Okay. We then move on to item 5 on the agenda, which is pages 11 to 16. And we're asked to note the current work programme on the appendix. Again, I hope everybody's got them. Do you want to just run through the works programme as shown? I think it should look something like that. One side, the other side. Justin.
Thank you, Chairman. So, yeah, page 13, page 14, your agenda shows the latest work programme. Since our last meeting, we've confirmed the highways maintenance performance item will be coming in September. Local nature recovery strategy is coming back in October, and climate change is coming in November. Still a few issues to be confirmed. We'll try to slot some of those into the meetings I've just mentioned. We had the members pre-meeting yesterday, and members discussed the issue of enforcement and making sure that that was covered in September, both in terms of the sort of performance around enforcement issues, but also to gain a sort of greater understanding of the process. So I'll take that forward with officers. And there was a point raised by Councillor Deakin, which I think she's raised with the Cabinet member, Councillor Durham, in regards to ancient monuments, which the committee may follow up at some point. But as I say, work programme on page 13. If there are any items that you would like to add that I haven't covered, then please let me know. And obviously bear in mind that we are at the stage where if there is anything to add in, we sort of need to add it now, given that we've probably only got another 6 months or so of this committee ahead of the next set of local elections. So if there are topics, then please let myself or the chairman know. Thank you.
And just to remind you that I've said it before and I'll say it again, we are a member-led committee. If you've got residents or you've got councils or cities or towns that are giving you pressure on items and issues, then this is a good place to bring them. James.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I'm particularly concerned that we haven't yet managed to programme in the flooding. I know it's on the work plan, but given the time that flooding does occur, I think we need to try and get that done sooner rather than later. Could we get an urgent update on that and to Cabinet member when they're able to do that, please?
Yeah, I'm just going to just double check the notes from the previous.
Yeah, I've had initial conversations with officers. It's one of those items that I think we'll look to slot in sort of September or October.
Okay, thank you.
Mike.
Yeah, thank you. I'd just like to repeat my request that I made at the pre-meet in terms of September highways presentation, you did actually add in that it would include enforcement, because I asked for that last meeting. But I want to be clear that what I expect to see in terms of enforcement, as I said on the pre-meet, was some sort of presentation or single slide on the enforcement process. What do they go through, whether it's hedges or flooding or whatever, and how they are doing in terms of rate of defects coming in, rate that are being completed and the number of outstanding defects. I have some particular issues with enforcement in my division that I think anybody else who's got a rural division has similar. So I am keen that they turn up with the relevant information and not just turn up and say, we'll give it to you next time. I don't see any reason why they couldn't turn up with it given it's September. So if that can be formally noted.
You make a good point.
Thank you.
We'll make sure that happens.
Yeah.
Mike.
I just wonder when it's it could be covered under that, the public rights of way. We've got great problems in Harlow, lack of maintenance, and whether that's a subject we need to look through or at a later stage, or whether it can be added to.
Are you generally talking about, I'm probably going to use the word that we all know about, which is upgrowth as opposed to sideways growth?
Yes, yeah.
Same problem I think we're all getting, yeah?
It's more of a complaint that I should be taking to the portfolio holder, but I'm struggling to get anything cut back. So it's just a general, perhaps an update as to how they deal with it.
Okay. You're in the process of chasing bits and pieces. I mean, to be blunt, we probably all are, I suspect. You're in the process of chasing specific items, but you want a general look at the whole system?
Yes, how they manage it. Yeah.
Okay, you can ask that. Does that mean?
Mr. Chair, could I say, I think prowl management as opposed to perhaps prowl enforcement. Prowl enforcement will be a subset of enforcement if the landowner is responsible. Prowl management is quite a large topic in its own right,
Yeah.
isn't it? I think, and might
May not be
merit a separate presentation.
And I get the impression looking around that there isn't anybody who doesn't want that discussed. Brought forward, you must all be getting pressure. Certainly I am. Okay. All right. Anything else that anybody would like? Okay. In which case we are item 6 and we are here to consider work on libraries, including current performance and issues, as well as the delivery of the library service plan. I've never seen such a good-looking bunch before, all enthusiastic. I hand over to Councillor Durham to tell us who his team are, what they do and what we can expect. So Councillor Durham, do welcome. Just a small issue. Your colleagues, are you all comfortable being addressed by your first name?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. I think the same goes for us here. So when there's an exchange of questions later on, we'll do it on that basis. Okay, so Councillor Durham, would you introduce your team, please?
Certainly. Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, committee. Thank you for this opportunity. As you see, we have the full library team here. We've got Jeff, Craig, Susanna and Juliet. And not forgetting, of course, Mike, who's my new deputy cabinet member. We have a vibrant and exciting library service, a service that has seen considerable investment, which range from significant investment of places like Shenfield, where we're going to have a brand new library opening later this year, even to one of our smallest libraries in Wickham Bishops that has also seen complete refurbishment. We're going to be embarking on further improvements in Colchester, in Harwich, Clacton, Loughton, Greensted and hopefully in Pitsea. Apart from the libraries, the staff are the backbone of the service, and we've recently taken on a number of new managers and some from other sectors, for example, from retail. And these new eyes are bringing a new perspective to the service, helping to invigorate and improve our offer to residents. There can also be challenges with issues such as the collection of reserved items, which has already been mentioned at full council, which costs the service a considerable amount of money and deprives customers the opportunity to access books while they sit on the reserve shelves. That is an issue that we are still working on. We're also experiencing spending antisocial behaviour. We had to employ a security guard at this library, but the problem with some youths persists. We've been working with both the City Council and the police to find a solution, but in the meantime, our staff regrettably are still at work. Juliet is actually going to take you through the slide deck, which I understand was already been circulated. Juliet and her team have worked exceptionally hard, and actually it's down to her and her really superb team to take this service through to the future. Cabinet member, I'm really proud that it's certain that we in Essex have one of the best public library services in the country, and it's something that we will strive to improve further. Thank you, Chairman. Juliet, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Just, sorry, I've forgotten to make a note that Councillor Stamp, I think, is joining us remotely. Just an explanation about that. He's a member of People and Families, and it's felt that at some areas and some stages, libraries cross over not just to us, but also to People and Families. So my apologies for not welcoming him in advance. And embarrassing. Sorry. Over to you, Mike. Mark.
Okay, thank you. So before we start the presentation, we're going to actually run a short video about the library service.
It's just going into full screen.
Hello, my name's Richard and I'm the Library Service Team Manager at Harlow Library. Harlow Library opened in June 2022 after a 10-month closure. One thing that I wanted to work on with the team, an amazing offer in terms of the building, the technology. That's the stage. You have to have the access to deliver the performance. We've served over 200,000 customers in the last 12-month period. We're very successful in improving our active user base, which year on year has grown around 16%. Customers have come in, used our services, we listen to them, we understand their needs. We are the experts and we can signpost them. Our busiest month in the last 12 months was March. A warm welcome. We're very high on public network use. We really are encouraging customers to use our self-service. We've been very successful with our class visits and Rhyme Time. We share the space with adult community learning and registrations. One of my priorities was to go out into the community and really promote what we offer. And I now work with over 18 partners.
I work with the local link to community support services in Harlow. We are part of adult social care. The library is a friendly environment, it's a safe.
My name is Adam Callahan and we run the Digital Inclusion Project. We help as many people as we can in any type of anything that's on the computer.
And that is supported by volunteers as well. One of our exciting initiatives is that we have piloted a partnership with Wimbledon.
My name's Aaron Robinson. I work for a tech company.
My name is Chris. I work for a data preservation company.
I was introduced to the work creed by some members of my local community. Richard and the team in the library have helped me get set up.
And I found this place from Google Maps. People who come here are very like-minded to facilitate that. So my company is actually based in Oxford.
It's helped me meet new people within the community. But it's also helped me with my mental health to come out and meet new people from different environments.
The facilities are great, and and it's in Harlow Town Centre.
They've really seen the benefit coming into the library and mix it with other people using the service, and our occupancy for that has been excellent. We recently introduced Wi-Fi connectivity. This has been very, very successful, and I knew it would work well in Harlow. About 80% of our monthly revenue comes from those two activities. The customer comes in with a device, they become a library member. We then ask them to log on to the NetLoan on their device, select the documents, upload them and print them.
I just want to add, actually, before Juliet carries on, I mean, Harlow Library, on the face of it, had one of their highest footfalls, but it was misleading. It wasn't actually people using the library, they used it just as a cut through. But now the library usage since that refurbishment has considerably increased, and it's one of our flagship libraries. Juliet.
And that, just to say that that was filmed at Harlow, but that's reflective of many of our libraries across the service. And I'm really proud to watch that video. I think it really encompasses everything that we're trying to achieve. So thank you everyone for inviting us along today. I'm Juliet Perez and I'm Head of Libraries, as we said, and we're going to update you today on some of the projects that we're delivering and demonstrate how our plan is helping to make a difference to the people of Essex. As you are aware, sorry, next slide.
This one?
Next one. Thank you. So as you are aware, the Everyone's Library Service Plan was launched in 2022 and is built on 3 pillars: the library service and literacy, communication and infrastructure, and supporting our communities and levelling up. The library plan also supports everyone's Essex, the health and wellbeing of all ages, and is underpinned by supporting the environment in everything that we do. Next slide, please. I've got to remember to say that. But before we move on to the pillars, I wanted to share some statistics with you, which are baselined on 2019, before COVID. And you can see, looking at this graph, that the library service is doing really well. Active memberships are rising steadily. Footfall is also increasing, and although we have some work to do, it's still encouraging. It does reflect the change in customer behaviour, who are still engaging with the service, but using through our e-resources and online services. You can see that new members have increased by 30% in 2023, well above those pre-COVID figures. And that month on month this year, we've already far exceeded our new members compared to 2019, with an average of 5,000 new members per month across the service. And we expect a high jump in those figures during the summer reading challenge. Next slide. You can see there that our stock is issuing very well and working really hard. Last year we nearly achieved pre-COVID figures, and we're well on the way to do that this year, if not higher. Total physical and e-books issues are also increasing compared to 2019, and borrowing is now approximately 10% higher than back then. Our statistics show that physical stock is still our most popular book choice and accounts for 83% of our loans. And we're still spending more on physical books than on e-format books. Next slide, please. So we're now using Power BI reports and dashboards to make evidence-based decisions about the service. Some of the benefits of using these tools include being able to monitor stock that we use for promotions, like our domestic abuse literature or our literacy area stock, which can now be tracked to assess its impact. And this can help us to identify and evidence successful promotions and target stock in the right place in the future. We can also use the data to evaluate our events and initiatives like the Summer Reading Challenge to ensure that we continuously improve and it helps us to make decisions when planning future events. The reports can help us evaluate partnerships with Barclays, which I'll speak about later, to highlight success and the impact that has on the library service. And perhaps most importantly, the detailed stock reports that we now have provide a clear view of the stock profile in every library and across the service. So this gives us an understanding of where the stock is issuing really well or not so well, and makes us see where we can locate that stock in the right places to ensure that it's performing highly. Next slide, please. So Pillar one. Pillar one is all about the library service and literacy and supporting our residents with their learning, development and engagement with reading. And some of the highlights of Pillar one are all about supporting children and adults to improve their literacy and enjoy reading for pleasure, increasing our events and online resources and developing volunteering opportunities. Next slide, please. So every year, the children of Essex take part in the National Summer Reading Challenge. Last year, nearly 27,000 children took part, which was an increase of 13% on 2022. Over 12,000 completed the challenge and over 500,000 books and e-books were borrowed. Thousands of children and teenagers became members of the library service for the first time, and Essex children made up 31% of the children who participated from the East of England library authorities. Over 400 volunteers gave up a huge amount of their time to support the library service and the staff and the children completing the challenge. We received some great feedback from the parents, and 94% agreed that participating in the Summer Reading Challenge during the 6-week school holidays had helped their children to maintain or improve their reading levels during that time, which is obviously a time when children like to do everything else. Next slide, please. So on this slide, you can see our wide range of activities that have kept our young customers and their families busy over the last year, supporting their learning and providing access to books in all of our libraries. All of these activities provide a fun and safe space for children and their families and help them with their literacy as well as their social development. Coming in and talking to a member of staff or another customer is a big step for little children. And the feedback that we've received from parents and carers has been overwhelming. Next slide, please. But the fun doesn't stop there, and across the service, we're continuing our programme of events and activities for children over the summer and into the new year, including this year's Summer Reading Challenge, which comes around very quickly and starts again on Saturday. We've got some amazing theatre performances and some other great activities that you can see listed there. We've also arranged a lot of library activities for teenagers, volunteering, work experience, book clubs, creative writing groups, games and study space. And I was talking to a member of staff yesterday who was off to a local sixth form at Hatfield Peveril to encourage them to use the library homework club at their library. We've just appointed a new author in residence who is going to be focusing on events and activities for teenagers. And I'm really excited to see some of the activities that she arranges. Next slide, please. So the library also delivers some great activities for adults. So examples include digital inclusion activities where we support people to access services and information online. What can seem simple to us can be a big hurdle to others, and we can help customers to print a document or show them how to set up an email, for example. We deliver work clubs and support people with writing a CV or providing interview skills or help with job hunting techniques. We also support communities and people to get together through our coffee mornings, our book clubs and our craft activities. We respond to local need and approaches by partners. For example, we host local police surgeries and couple with a cop-up. All of these activities you see listed help people develop new relationships and play a huge part in combating loneliness. You may have noticed that some of our libraries have puzzles laid out for people to complete. And these have proved very popular, even with the teenagers. And similarly, our newspapers are another reason for many of our customers to visit the library and meet others. Next slide, please. I wanted to highlight two of our adult services that we're delivering and talk about our dementia cafes and our library of sanctuary status. I'm very proud that last year the Alzheimer's Society awarded us the Working to Become Dementia Friendly recognition for the whole library service. And we've now got 5 dementia cafes, and so far we've delivered 19 events to support almost 200 people with dementia and their carers. Our cafes support those living with dementia and provide a safe, welcoming space where people can connect and chat. They prevent loneliness and make people feel part of their community. And we've worked in partnership with Adult Social Care and the Alzheimer's Society to make them successful. And we've also received funding for their setup costs from the Year of Reading and the Year of Numbers. The middle photos that you can see there were taken at our cafe at Harwich Library, which takes place at the same time as the library's Rhyme Time. This provides intergenerational benefits and opportunities for our friends with dementia and their carers to meet young people. And we've also delivered activities with the local school children who come along and chat to our dementia friends. Finally, we've created a memory cafe volunteer role to help us run the groups. Next slide, please. Last year, we were also awarded the Library of Sanctuary status, which is a national award. The status recognises the work that we've done to help recently newly arrivals integrate into the community, including our Library of Sanctuary library card and our foreign language stock. The award is given by the City of Sanctuary UK, and having the status means we're part of a big network that includes cities, libraries, schools and universities of sanctuary across the UK. Having the status has helped us further connect with partners like the Mercury Theatre and RAMA, which is the Refugee, Asylum Seeker and Migrant Action Group. And together we delivered some joint activities for Refugee Week in June 24. Providing a welcome space for people seeking sanctuary reduces socialisation and loneliness, and it connects people with others who have shared experience and provides access to essential information about healthcare, housing and education. And I'm now going to pass you over to Craig.
Thanks, Julia. Thanks, everybody, for having me here this morning. My name's Craig Fitcook. I'm the Area Manager for North for the Library Service. So I'm going to be running you through Pillar 2. Next slide, please. Thank you. So Pillar 2 is all about our communications and infrastructure of the Library Service. So as Councillor Durham touched on when he was doing his introduction, this is around how we're making sure that our library service is modern and fit for the future. So some of that infrastructure is about our buildings, but part of it is also around our data and engagement with residents, so we can understand and localise our library offer across the county. So you've heard lots of exciting things around the service offer and the different groups and activities that we have running across our libraries across the county. Also, really excitingly, we're having lots of work happening on our buildings. Next slide, please. Thank you. So you can see here on this slide and some of the images on the left-hand side, and as Councillor Durham touched on, there's lots of work happening across our library service. You can see here the images of Shenfield, which is due to open later this year, and is again another fantastic example similar to Harlow, where we've modernised the offer, the interaction, the quality of the library building will be fantastic for the residents. Colchester and Harwich are undergoing refurbishments. Harwich will have the co-location with adult learning, so mezzanine floor is being added to Harwich, and again is just an example of how we're modernising the service so we co-locate within those buildings and understand the needs of the community. Colchester and the high population of Colchester with a fantastic footfall, in particular a young population. Colchester will have an imagination centre for children and a full refurbishment of its children's library with modernisation of the building throughout. Clacton and Loughton will be going through full rebuilds starting next year. And again, looking at Clacton in particular, the co-location of the university and adult learning in that building and how the library service integrates into all of those offers is just part of the modernisation of the library service. Next slide, please. So as I touched on in my introduction, buildings is only one part of the infrastructure and change for the library service. One of the other things we have to do to modernise the library service is look at how we can measure the value in which a library service brings. So what this slide sets out here is we're very, very lucky in Essex to have two fantastic tools that we can use to evidence social value across the service. One of those is the National Themes and Outcomes tool, so the TOMS measurement tool. The other one of those is EVOLS, so it's the economic value of libraries. Using these tools, we can really start to look at how we bridge the gap between quantitative and qualitative data to show what the library service is offering to its residents. And the fantastic thing about this is, in business terms, it would be you'd look at profit margins as a success measure for a business. How do you do that with a service that isn't predominantly set up to be an income generating or profit making service? Social value allows you to put a pounds and pence figure on the well-being that is offered through the service, the social interactions and positive engagement and prevention that we offer as part of that service. Essentially, what we'll be starting to do with the library service is set out for each of the core offer, what value do we bring to our residents and how do we localise that value to be able to say and show the difference between the value that we bring, for example, in Harwich to the value we bring in Harlow. Next slide, please. So here just sets out, as Juliet was touching on in her presentation, some of those core offers, and then how we apply a value to those core offers to show this is the income that is generated through social value via our library service and how we engage and work with residents. So you can see there on the left, the social value that was delivered through rhyme times and story times across Essex. This isn't just about the interaction at that individual level of running that session, it's the impact and value that it brings to other areas, such as education, such as social engagement and well-being, and then how those families engage with other activities across the library service, but also across other areas of the council. Moving through each of those, I won't take you through every single one, but you can see there the summer value, the social value, generated by the summer reading challenge and the volunteers that become part of that challenge. So this is just looking at another element of, we have a fantastic summer reading offer across the county, but also the volunteers play a huge part in that. And then what those volunteers go on to do, how they engage with other things and the success measures that that can bring for those. The social value, again, generated by our work clubs, and then through things such as class visits. The ambition of this is for us, as I said earlier, to set out across the library service almost £1 for every £1 spent within the library service. This is the pounds and pence figure we receive social value for our residents as part of that offer. Next slide, please.
Have I gone too far?
No,
It's gone back.
It's gone backwards. It's going backwards. Thank you. I thought it was just me then. Thank you. So the other part of this is with measuring the courses and the various different activities and the things we offer through the library service. But it's also those individual interactions. And these are just three very small case studies that set out examples of thousands of interactions we have across our library service every single month. And these are great examples of how the libraries are in a unique position of trust and sit in the heart of the community, fostering a welcome, supportive environment for all. If I just run you through the first case study there on the left-hand side. So you can see there we've set out the areas of the social value that we feel were supported through this offer, and then the pounds and pence figure that type of interaction and how it's measured using both the EVOLS and TOMS tool. And it's just a fantastic example of how libraries are a place of trust where we can identify that individual need for a resident as well, and just how important those social interactions are at an individual level with a person face to face. And the library is one of those unique offers that we have across the council. So I think that's my last slide. So just to wrap up, so the ambition of this is by combining social value with the performance data that we now have available for the library service, we've started to engage partners in a different way. We can show now our partners the social value that we're bringing as a service, how we can connect with other services such as health and social care, public health, with voluntary and community sector services, to look at things in the future around how we can joint bid to run various different initiatives through our modernised library service. Thank you. I'll hand you over to Jeff for pillar 3.
Thank you. Next slide, please. Good morning, everyone. My name is Jeff. I am the Library Service Delivery Plan Manager. I keep trying to look at the title because it's quite long. I'm going to talk you through pillar 3, which is, I like to call it the fluffy stuff, that is what drew me to the library service. So supporting communities and levelling up, improving our ties with the community and making the library invaluable. So there's lots of cut across all the 3 pillars. So ultimately, pillar 3 is about providing support and skills to residents to help them achieve their aspirations. I won't read through the rest of it, so you've got it there. Part of pillar 3, community connectors. Sorry, next slide, please. Community connectors and mobile outreach. So we have 4 community connectors across 1 in each quadrant. Last year they attended 396 events, including in education settings, community hubs, country parks, museums, Colchester Zoo. It's always popular, and local festivals. And they engaged with 25,000 residents, including 15,000 children. Signed up around 1,700 new members, so going out into the public where people are not already engaged with the libraries. And they're also members of various networks within their quadrant, so linked to, for example, social care, health, and just literally anything they can get their hands on. Because they're out in the public, they're ambassadors for Essex County Council as well as the library service. They have conversations with residents in places where, as a council, we don't necessarily reach. So, for example, conversations have helped us to know if we're delivering services that people want. One of our community connectors had a conversation with several people who'd had recent brain injuries, and our e-audio stock had really helped them to re-engage with learning and the public in general. So, very, very good, very positive. And of course, they meet people who are not existing members, people who say great things to them. Next slide, please. So partnership work, although we touched on some of this already, we've been raising the awareness of Essex Library Service, expanding our network of partners, and our work complements both ECC and external teams covering all sorts of things. So social care, we've worked with the foster care team within ECC. We're doing more and more with teams supporting unpaid carers. We attend various team meetings across the council and help working groups and all sorts of events. So the photos there, you can, Santa there, which I'll come on to in a minute, you might recognise someone on the table. But also Safe to Go Stow at the top, which is a Lear Holdfield crime reduction programme with Home Office designed, taking place in Harlow. We're involved with that. So we host activities in our libraries and promote key messages and activities across our physical and virtual communities. So we've got a pretty good social media team and good outreach digitally. We work with those with learning disabilities and autism, various teams again within and without the council, and worked with colleagues from commissioning in that space. Employment and skills, so there's the someone's ring doorbell's gone off. So we supported the Careers magazine, so we were writing for that, but we also distribute it across our libraries to help our residents to engage with the world of work through there. We worked with Essex Cares Limited, who provide employment support to people with extra needs. Involved with the Tendering Future Skills Group, which is quite heavily involved in free ports for Harwich and so on. And our work clubs often involve collaboration with other partners such as the DWP, Shore Trust, ACL and ePuts Employment Services. With colleagues from Children and Families Commissioning, we were able to introduce a range of domestic abuse related stock, covering the whole spectrum of what that entails. They've been issued almost 4,000 times since they were produced at the start of this year. So really a sad indictment that they've been checked out so much, but obviously we've met a need. We were involved in the Essex County Council Cost of Living Board, which has now gone into business as usual phase. But that pulled together teams from across ECC to address the cost of living crisis, and we've fed into that and been quite heavily involved. We'll be supporting the consultation on the local nature recovery strategies, which I always need to check what those letters mean, which will be launching in sort of early August. So we'll be hosting some of the hard copies of that in some of our libraries. And of course, as I mentioned, the Santa bus with someone on this table, and myself, I should say as well, I also just left Santa, organised by our community connectors in partnership with the Essex Child and Family Wellbeing Service, which visited libraries across the county throughout December 2023 as a second year. Colleagues from across the council, so thank you to them. Many of them volunteered as Santa or elves, or just to help bring a touch of Christmas to families. Many ECC officers use their individual volunteering days to support that activity. So it really brought lots of teams together into the libraries. Next slide, please. So as an example of one of the projects that we're running, Know Your Neighbourhood. So we use data to inform a successful bid to the Know Your Neighbourhood Fund, which is funded by the Department for Culture, Media and Sport via Libraries Connected. And this programme will be tackling chronic loneliness in Jaywick and Tendring through a range of volunteering activities, which will engage with levelling up cohorts and be co-produced as much as possible. It will increase pride in place through micro volunteering opportunities. So what that looks like is if you walk through Jaywick, as I quite often do, I always see a ramp outside someone's house that they've created themselves to access via a wheelchair, and that's broken. That ramp is just ruined. So for someone to go along and fix that for that person would be absolutely immense and really quite simple and straightforward. So that's the kind of thing we want to get involved with there. And also some large scale operations, but that'll be co-produced. So I can't give you many details about what that looks like at the moment. And also, of course, to raise the awareness of library services and some of the great, fantastic things that you've heard about today and increase the footfall therein. I will now pass you back to Juliet.
Thank you. Thank you. So since February this year, we've worked with Barclays, who have set up a community bank in service in 4 of our libraries, and it's proving to be a very successful partnership. Since opening, Barclays have supported over 1,100 customers, and they've told us that 60% of their time have been spent talking to people about fraud and financial awareness. And we will be working with Barclays to deliver some of those sessions for library customers too in the near future. Next slide, please. We have seen an increase in footfall, new and active members in the 4 libraries where Barclays are based. And you can see from the graphs there, these are examples from Clacton and Rainley. You can see a direct link between Barclays being based in the libraries and an increase in active and new members and footfall. We're generally finding that when people come to visit Barclays, they start using their library card again, which is obviously fantastic. The partnership works well for both the bank and the library service and helps to create a valued hub within the community, as well as bring an income into the library service. Next slide, please. For the last 5 years, Libraries Connected have been working with Software Courier, commissioned by the Home Office to deliver the UK visa service across the nation's library services. This has brought in 3.6 million annually to the library sector, which means around 10% of all visa applications in the UK has been through 14 library sites, one of which is Chelmsford Library. And since December 2022, the visa service in Chelmsford Library has delivered over 10,000 appointments for people wishing to apply for a visa. This has provided a great service to Essex residents and has increased the footfall and membership of the library. It also brings in a valuable income to the service. It's fitted well into the library and it provides a safe and welcoming space for the users. Next slide, please. So to summarise, we're halfway through the library plan and we're already looking forward to the future. And we will continue to deliver the plan and focus on delivering good quality services to our residents, to improve our libraries and to target new users to use the service. Next slide, please. Finally, at the beginning of 2024, we completed our management restructure and we now have a team consisting of experienced staff and newly found talent, Craig's one of them, who are truly fit for the future. And I'd like to leave the last word to one of my new team managers who's based at Malden Library to explain what attracted him to the role.
Hi, I'm Jay, a new starter for Essex Libraries and the manager for Malden Library. Come inside.
Okay. Connecting and engaging with our local community really interested me to apply for this role and move from private to the public sector. Since I've been in the service, we've increased footfall and we're working closely with local businesses, community groups, the district council to support literacy, mental health, levelling up and drive togetherness. Essex Libraries, we are the future.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much indeed. I think that was a really, really good team effort. And I make no apologies for the length of that presentation. Our library service is a large service that reaches absolutely every community in the county. And on the Barclays front, it's just about to move into Malden as well. We've taken them out of the district council offices where they have a room cupboard. So that's going to be, that's the next move, very exciting. So yeah, and you might have spotted a familiar Santa. What I haven't told Michael yet, as my deputy, is that is also part of the role. And we look forward to seeing him on the Santa bus.
Well versed in that. Some of us are better equipped for that role.
You'll be playing rugby, Alan, you won't have time for that.
Questions? Thank you, Chairman.
Just going around the table, any questions? Ross?
James.
James? Okay.
Sue.
Right, in no particular order, Dan Land.
Yeah, no, just a statement, guys. Just I'm very familiar with the work that ACL do. I always bring them up. I'm very fond of ACL, and I love the linking between yourselves and them. And as much as that can continue and progress, I think that does have a really positive impact on those communities where people can sort of interact with both those services under one roof. So I like that what you're doing there with Clacton being a new sort of, and Harwich incorporating both of those structures. So yeah, very brilliant. I think the libraries are a fundamental part of society. I'd hate to ever think that we would ever decrease our love of them, because they are somewhere people can feel sort of safe and comfortable, and all these new and additional services that you can provide will always add benefit and value to the communities. Thank you.
Okay. Just a question. You mentioned the Barclays. Is that purely non-commercial basis? Do they do banking services or just provide financial?
Okay. They don't carry money as such.
Okay.
It's actually done via ATMs generally. They're providing advice, and I've sort of been to Rayleigh and Clacton, and they're dealing largely with people who are struggling with using technology to do their banking. And as it said on the presentation, an awful lot of people who go to talk to them about fraud and things like that. One thing that the Barclays people have told me is the great reaction they get, because they're sitting just across a table face to face. There's not a piece of glass between them, and it's not the intimidating atmosphere that sometimes going to your bank can be. So it's proving to be a really, really big success, and something we hope to roll out in other libraries obviously now that the banks are closing on the high streets.
So I can see that. Are there any plans to widen that particular aspect of the service?
Yes, as I've said, we're currently working with Barclays, but this is clearly an opportunity for us and indeed the banks.
Okay, so is there a schedule, being 10 banks, being 10 libraries in the county, or?
We're actively working with Barclays at the moment to identify new possibilities where they haven't got visibility on the high street and where our library is conveniently placed. As I said, the Malden is about to move from the district council offices to Malden Library, which has its car park right next door and is much nearer the high street. So we are looking at it and actively progressing every opportunity.
Okay, and is that an opportunity for us to make income from that, generate income?
A short answer, Chairman, yes.
Okay. So.
Yes, thank you. I was really pleased to see you quantifying the good that certain events do in the libraries, and I know how difficult that is, and we always have a bit of a fight between what good something is doing compared to how much it's costing us as a service. Most libraries, some libraries have spare rooms which are can be hired out to different groups. How are you balancing the income of the library and then creating a service where there are accessible rooms for people, groups, charities to hire?
So a lot of the space that we're hiring out to Barclays, for example, is in the main floor of the library. So some of the libraries do have individual separate rooms as well that we can hire. So there hasn't been an issue so far. We've been able to balance that demand out in the libraries where we've needed to place partners.
There's been no reduction in shelf space at all or stock where we've got Barclays. Bear in mind, we also have the registration service in some of the libraries as well. So it's just an added bonus, and as Juliet said earlier, where we're doing it, we're finding the footfall for the libraries increase, because while people are waiting, they're in a comfortable place, can look at the books and look at the magazines and things that we have. So it works extremely well for both of us. We are obviously looking to get the most from the library estate, and where we have rooms that are suitable to utilise, we do that. I mean, to give you an example, so there's a whole floor of Colchester Library that we really need to utilise, but unfortunately our lease with Colchester City Council precludes that. So that's something we're having to deal with, because there's a great space there that could be perfect to rent out. But where we have that sort of space, we are using it.
Can I just come back? Cool. Just a couple of thanks, actually. My local library, Petergate Library, very small library, but the only community building that we have in the whole of the area. Firstly, thank you to those, especially during COVID, who helped us install the post office in that library for a temporary period until a permanent site could be found for it. Again, that opened the door for people to go into a library that perhaps had not been in a library for years. And thank you again for installing the toilets, a basic facility. The local children's centre closed with the idea that they would move into the library, only to find there were no toilets and no changing facilities. So thank you again for those facilities that have been added to Petergate Library, because it has made a real difference to the space and to the people that use the centre. So thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Scordis.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the presentation, and also whoever designed the slides as well. It was very helpful coming into the meeting. I think it gave us all the information we needed to scrutinise. If you allow, Chair, I've got 3 questions, but they're all kind of linked together. So first one is around new members. Have we got the geography for this? As I imagine quite a few are from possibly Harlow, because you had a new library, but also the Barclays, ones that have a Barclays mode is slightly different, while Colchester might be a bit more static because we haven't had that, but it's still a busy library. So just wondering if we have geography on that. Also wondering, how do we get these new people to keep coming back? Because they might come in with Barclays, sign up, and then be like, well, I've got the advice, don't really need to come back. I'm signed up for emails from the library, but I don't tend to get many. I'm wondering if there's an option there to say, we gather all this data, we must know what books people are reading, we must know someone like crime novels or fantasy novels. We can go, oh, here's what we suggest you get out this week. And these are the libraries that have it in stock, or here's the link to order it to your closest library. So I'm wondering if there's options there, as well as promoting reading clubs and rhyme time, all that kind of thing, because we don't know if these people have children, so forth. And the last one is, we're doing a lot of events, which is good. What work have we done to try and use some high profile authors? As we know, when we had all the protests a few years ago, we had a lot of authors get on side, and it feels like, I think pretty much every author is very pro-library. And I'm wondering if there is an opportunity to try and get some high profile authors to come along for any event you guys can think of that will get more footfall. And on that as well, what I did see is one author, Richard Osman, he tweeted about how one library on the other side of the country had a huge demand for one of his books. So he went, well, I've just donated 10 more. So I wonder if it's worth speaking to authors about that as well, saying, look, you're really high profile. Is there any chance you can possibly donate more books, because this helps your profile?
Okay, over to you, Pam.
Okay, so if I answer the first question about new members, we are able to find, the geography, the demographics of those new members. So I can provide that after the meeting. That's, it helps us as well to provide the services in the right libraries. And we're doing quite a lot of work with customer segmentation. So with our marketing team, looking at how we can really target services in the right areas. Looking at the membership figures and the footfall. Just you mentioned Harlow and Colchester, extremely busy libraries. Colchester's reaching over 30,000 visitors a month. Before we have our fantastic play area in there, and Harlow is reaching about 17,000 members a month as well. So two really extremely busy libraries. With the authors events, we have tried to get in big authors. Sometimes there is a capacity issue there because they like the big audiences. But it is always something that sometimes they do come to us as well to ask if they can come in, and we're always on the lookout for new authors big authors to come into libraries.
And just on that last point, so where we just had Essex Book Festival, so there were, I think, 6 events across Essex where we had big name authors, and our author in residence, so last year was Sid Moore, who is local, and she's doing work with refugees as part of the Library and Sanctuary programme, and we've just recruited a new one for this year who will target an audience that doesn't always feature in libraries so much, which is the sort of young adult teenagers. So we're using those authors to try and target the people that we want to see more of.
We've got Essex Book Festival as well, haven't we? As part. It's fantastic for bringing the authors in. Do you want me to pick up just on the digital side? So I was smiling as you were saying that around how do we keep people coming back and how do we use technology to be able to engage our residents differently. Just last week, we were looking at the collection of all of the protected characteristic data. So again, we can drill down to a whole new level via the library service, but also as part of the digitalisation of the library service, when we get a new member to sign up, how are we making monthly contact with them? How are we being in contact with them if they've been inactive for a period of time? All of those things are feeding through into our marketing plans around how we look at the tech that we have available and make contact with residents in a different way. So definitely going forward, we will see some more emails coming through, Councillor Scottis.
I think on another one of your points, Councillor Scottis, clearly the addition of Barclays and some of the other services and the clubs that we're now attracting are bringing people in that may have had a different perception of what libraries are like now. This is why the modernisation is so important. So when people come back into the library, they go, crikey, this isn't what I was expecting. There are all these exciting things. They're nice, comfortable, safe spaces, loads of different things to do. So, you know, once you get them through the front door, the staff are absolutely brilliant at engaging with people. And you know, hopefully, you know, people will want to come back, and that is certainly our experience. And it starts from the youngest age, as we've said. We've spoken about rhyme time and story time, where, you know, parents and carers are bringing their little children in and they sit in a circle. I mean, anybody that hasn't seen it, you know, I urge you to go into the library and just stand and watch, to see the look on the kids' faces when the staff are, you know, doing the rhymes and telling the stories. Children love having stories read to them, and regrettably, there are quite a lot of parents that don't read to children every night for whatever reason. And it is so important for their development, and to actually see this going on in the libraries. It also goes on our outreach. Last year, we were doing it in some of the country parks with a pop-up, loads of books. And families were coming in with their children. They didn't know the library service was going to be there. They just happened on it. They could sign up. We gave them free books, chatted with them, and then we did some story times, and it was really uplifting to see. And the parents went away, you know, loads of bits and pieces, leaflets, books and things like that, and with their children enrolled in the library. So, you know, it's just one of many things that we're doing.
And just to say, you know, just before the summer reading challenge, that's what the staff do. They go out to all the schools and do the school assemblies and talk to the children about the summer reading challenge, and that always brings them in. There's, you know, we will go out to the communities in every way to tell them about the library service.
And last year, actually, for the first time, we took the pop-up library to the It's My Life Festival in Danbury, which is the festival for looked after children. So, you know, we're really actively trying to reach every single group around the county. Thank you.
Okay. Is that you happy with those?
Yeah, just one more question I forgot about, if that's
Okay,
okay, Chair. It wasn't mentioned in the presentation, the mobile library. How is the mobile library doing? Is it reaching all the areas we want it to reach? Are there plans to possibly expand it if it is doing really well?
So at the moment, we've got two what we call traditional mobile libraries, which are our big HGV vehicles, and we've also got an outreach vehicle, and they're out and about looking at new sites. And the outreach library is out, you know, talking to the community and attending local fetes, as Councillor Durham said, at different events. So the mobile library service is still there and is still running and still, you know, serving our residents.
If I just come in on that point, we're always going to be reviewing and making sure that it's giving really good value for money. And as you've seen from the slides, the level of intelligence and insight that's being used by the service is really making it very smart and being able to target those things. So we'll always review and make sure that the stops are giving the sort of best value and delivering the best service. You know, and sometimes we have stops that, you know, just aren't getting visits for a while, and so we'll look at what we can do with regards to changing those stops. So it is a service that we annually take a view out and make sure it's still delivering the right value for residents.
Can I jump in there as well?
Yeah, please do.
We're looking at introducing 5 new sites over the next few weeks. And so again, as part of the modernisation and thinking around how we use the assets we have available. Colchester, when it closes, additional libraries in the Colchester area will open up the extra hours, but we're also going to use the mobile library service to be present in the Market Square, just outside City Hall, the days a week, so people don't lose that connection with the city centre. So it's how we use the services as well as that.
It is a difficult part of the service because the large library buses, you have to have an HGV licence holder, so that is, you know, a little bit more staffing point of view. The outreach bus doesn't need that, and it's excellent. And that's the one that Santa tends to drop in on. And I visited the outreach bus. It went to Tabors in Waltham, which was a very difficult, challenging area, and you know, gave an opportunity for parents, carers, and indeed some children to get access. And we've been approached to go there again. and to similar places around the county. But that outreach bus gives us a little bit more flexibility.
Okay, just a personal note of thanks again, similar to Sue. I'm from Barnixie. We've got a lovely little library there. And I've been on the council for 10 years, and for the whole of that 10 years, I have my monthly clinics there, my residence clinics. Started off as being slightly awkward because it was an open place and there were no rooms. But in the town, we got some happy to chat benches put in, which is an idea that I think we got from Australia. It doesn't really matter. So when I sit there, I've got a happy to chat sign. And what I've found is funny enough, a positive answer is that people, I don't book appointments, I just say call in. But I've found that we have there's a big table in the Brightsea Library, if you've been there, and people sit around it, and provided they're happy to talk about ideas, then we're not talking about anything personal. I've found that we've been joined. People exactly the opposite or same as you've said. They actually came in for a library function, but saw the happy to chat. Oh, while I'm here, can I talk to you about so and so and so? So I can recommend that to any councillor as being a really, and it fits the criteria of also safety. It's in the public, it's not in a private room, and I think it's good. A big issue recently, and I don't know where it's gone, was this discussion about charging for reserving books. I think I've got it right. I think if you reserve a book via the librarian, there's no charge.
Right, it's the other way around.
Other way around. Okay. So if you go to the library and say I want to have a book sent to me from so and so, there is a charge. But if you do it online, there is no charge. And as I understood it, I think we spoke last time, I might have this wrong, 400,000 reservations, but 100,000 never turned up. So how is that going to be? On the face of it, many of us thought it was a positive move to do that. So how is that going? What's the next step in that? Because I think has it been put to one side, got rid of, or just deferred?
Juliet will come in with the figures in a second, but yes, as I said at full council, we will not be adopting the universal charging for reservations. We do have to do something about the huge number of uncollected items, because you appreciate that we are moving them around the county by van, which is costly and not environmentally friendly. Also, while they're sitting on the shelf waiting for collection, nobody else can access them. So we need to try and reduce that. We are looking at ways and continue to look at other ways of doing it. We've now found that it is possible for us, because there is some legislation involved in what libraries can and can't do. We are looking at possibly being able to fine people for non-collection, but this is something a little bit down the line. But there is absolutely no plan to bring back the universal charging for every reservation. Julia.
Just to confirm those numbers, it's about 18% of that 400,000 that are not collected. So as
how long do they sit there for?
I think they sit there for 10 days, and then there's
10 days they're not in use.
Yeah.
A further 4 or 5 or 6 days for getting them from library A to library B, and then another 4 or 5 or 6 days to get them from library B back to library A.
Yes. Yeah.
I think there's the general feeling I had was that wasn't an unreasonable set of circumstances.
It was aggravated by the fact that we had people making multiple reservations and then just taking the first ones that that come along, and then either spending too much capacity, not enough time to read, and not picking up the last ones. It's a work in progress, Chairman, that we need to look at and find a solution, because the current situation just isn't viable.
And on the subject of target of income generation, do you have any targets for saying that there seems to be a good whole range of options for providing income, modest perhaps. Do you have targets for that? Have you got anything to aim at? Any key features?
Chairman,
Apart from a personal target.
Chairman, you will know that every service is tasked with its budget, and we are having to meet savings targets, and we are having to meet income targets, which are, let's just say, strenuous, thanks to our Chancellor. But we do very much have targets for all activities, yes.
So the income generation, apart from providing a service, is part of the mantra for your staff as well?
We also look at having to maximise income generation as well as efficiency and savings.
Okay. Councillor Blackwell.
Thank you, Chairman. Can I just say before I start, I do support our library service, especially on literacy. But I'm saying, and you've just touched on it about income. I think some of the changes which have been made, I think, have had a bit of a detrimental effect on, especially my local library on Canvey Island, simply because of the charges we charge now to some organisations. You know, maybe I'm wrong. Tell me if a voluntary group wants a space in the library, they may have to be charged for it. And also they've been told they can no longer use the kitchen to make cups of tea for the people that used to come in. And as a local authority, put my other hat on, we had an organisation called Peabody's, which was an amazing organisation, took over from Citizens Advice, bearing up Canvey Island as designated as a deprived area and identified in the Levelling Up programme. And we are talking about supporting our communities. So Peabody's used to go in the Canvey Library twice a week, giving advice, very, very popular. Lots of people going in, brought people into the library. But at the end of the day, I was quite surprised that suddenly they wanted to charge us to over £2,000 just for one table and two chairs. I pulled them out of the library just because of the principle. I don't think we should be charging for community advice. It was a very good organisation giving advice, and that was what our libraries were all about. Community hubs, and that's what I support 100%. They're now in the local job centre, which is not ideal, but I just believe we need to look at, you know, our libraries being, we talk about supporting the communities, yet sometimes we put restrictions. And one final little thing, Christmas, we have Canvey's light switch on, thousands of people in the town. The library was packed with hundreds of people in and out the library all day long because the Rotary Club were in there giving out free hot chocolate. It was a fantastic event in the library. Suddenly, along comes Mr. Health and Safety, and they're not allowed to do that anymore. So this year, there was no one in the library. Fantastic outside, but no one in the library. I think, you know, we're going to look at sometimes about a little bit of common sense. You know, after 10 years of the Rotary being in our library, giving out free hot chocolate, suddenly someone comes along and said, you're not allowed to do that anymore. Sorry, out you go. So the library's empty. It just don't make sense because it is such a great community event. We brought so many people in the library, identified what the library was all about, great for the staff morale, and now that's short. So please, can we really look at that again, if nothing else? Because our library on Canvey is right in the town centre. It's such a community hub. And when we had the cold weather, it was lots of people in there, you know, it was a warm hub. So yes, it's lovely. They do fantastic work, don't get me wrong. But I think, you know, we've got to look at, you know, maybe I don't mind you charging Barclays Bank. Yeah, they've got the money. Charge them double. Don't charge the others. Thank you very much.
I'm going to let the officers come in a second, but I mean, yes, I appreciate what you're saying. We do get quite a lot of questions raised about the cost when we get clubs and things want to use the libraries, and actually very often that's out of hours. So quite, you know, we have to pay staff and all those additional things to accommodate evening clubs. And we, you know, as I said, we have fairly strict income targets, but I will let the officers discuss the, I can't talk about specifics, but I'm sure they will.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the team have touched on the fact that, you know, we're trying to make a very sustainable library service, and I think you've seen from the slides today again the amount of things that we're actually doing. But when I first came into the service 7 years ago, we had a situation where we had mostly people who were using library services not paying or disputing charges, and that ranged from community groups all the way through to what we'd say are more private groups holding things. And it became a real challenge. And again, making the service sustainable is really, really important. We've done a lot of work as a team on those charging and looking at how we're more flexible with our charging and making sure those rooms are available at lower prices at certain times. So I'm not sure about this particular Peabody incident, and you know but Juliet might want to come in on it. We'll certainly go back and revisit, but it is important to understand that we do create a situation, if we're not careful, where someone doesn't pay for it and then no one wants to pay for it, and then the library staff get put in a very difficult position. So we've put a framework in place. We're prepared, you know, we're always revisiting that, and we do need to make sure, like I say, that we're putting in appropriate services for the community to use it. So we'll go and have a look at that particular one with that particular group, Peabody, you say. Juliet, do you have any further information on that?
No, I mean, that is something that I can revisit, like you said, Susanna. But we have, as you said, we have spent a lot of time sort of making sure that we've got the right prices in for the right level of groups, from the community groups up to the commercial charges. But if you leave that with me, I can look into that.
Chairman, could I say, I appreciate that, but let's make them community hubs and not commercial hubs. That's the key. Thank you.
I understand that the summer fair is due to take place in Canby as well, so I think there might have been a recalibration of the thought process.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Deakin.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. You've already asked one of my questions on reservation costs, etc. I have one observation and I think 2 or 3 questions that are related. The observation is the slides that you have presented here to us today are not what I was given in my pack. And I don't believe there were extra slides or extra information on some of the slides. I don't know when that was added, but it would be useful if we had the pack presented to us so that I can read it before it goes up on the screen. So that's just an observation.
We can circulate that.
Yes, but it would be
to
nice to have had it before rather than after.
I think to be fair, there was a pack here, which is, well, but I think you just added some.
Yeah, just added.
There were additional
Well, that's to be applauded.
and information.
We'll make sure you get a copy of that.
Yeah, but as I say, I do like to read things before a meeting, and I felt that some of those I couldn't read on the screen, so it would be helpful. Thank you. I was very interested to hear about the Library of Sanctuary. And so how many cards have been issued, and are they just to Ukrainian groups, or is it for other minority groups?
So I don't have the number of cards, but we can get that. But it's for all groups, so it's not just Ukrainians. It's literally all newly arrived communities. So people seeking asylum or people who have arrived through other means. The sanctuary part is that we don't ask. You know, that's not our role. So we are welcoming to everybody.
So how do the people that obtain these cards or new people coming in, how do they know that there is a library of sanctuary in their area, and how do they go about accessing it?
So for example, in Clacton, the local CVS tendering, they've met with, you know, they have their various sort of outreach groups. They brought people into the library and they've had a tour of the library and had everything explained.
What about Chelmsford, as we're sitting in Chelmsford?
Couldn't tell you about Chelmsford, but I'm sure it'd be the same. So the idea is that people do make contacts, generally through local voluntary organisations. So they will be brought in that way.
The sanctuary status is all libraries. large and small. And certainly I was at the launch at Colchester. I mean, there is a
So do we
a
have,
wide range of literature in most of the languages, but there is something for pretty much everybody, and indeed lots of leaflets in their language about the various aspects of their refugee status.
so do we have the data on how many residents for whom English is not a first language that actually do use the library?
That's going to be part of the work that we do with our data, where we're collecting, we'll be collecting data going forward on ethnicity. And so we will be able to have that information.
But we don't have it currently.
We don't, we're not currently collecting that, but we are in the process of being able to do that in the future.
And finally, Chairman, are there any activities specifically aimed at minority groups to encourage them to use the service? Are the libraries putting on specific activities for minority groups?
So there are, for example, in Chelmsford, I believe there's a writing group for Afro-Caribbean people. There are in Basildon, so through the Library Sanctuary, it's called a reading round, and that's led by Sid Moore, the author, and it's with people, Library Sanctuary members, who then read together, and activities led by the author. So there's a whole range of clubs led by local needs. So people come into the library and say, actually, I'd really like to do X, Y, Z, or the library will identify a need themselves. And activities will be set like that. But as Craig touched on before, the customer segmentation will help us understand, where there are gaps perhaps. So we don't want to sit on our laurels and say we are doing everything we can for everybody if we don't know. So there's some more work to go into that part.
I think Susanna, you've asked to speak.
Thank you, Chairman. Just to confirm that we work with partners including ECC Resettlement, Crisis for Calais, and the colleges teaching English as a second language, to just confirm the partners that we are working with to make sure that everyone's aware of the Library Sanctuary.
Councillor Newport.
Thank you, Chairman. I've got a few things that I've picked up on. One of the things that I'd just like to say, obviously, great service, and I must say I don't get any complaints about the library service in my inbox anyway. So that's a good start. One thing that I did note, obviously, and I think Councillor Score just picked up on this, was about the data that we've been presented with today. It's not very granular. And it is obviously high level, and I'd have liked to have seen some more granular data put in front of us to scrutinise. So I'm just going to jump around a little bit, but going on the Barclays partnership, and I know that's obviously gone into Rayleigh, but I also just wanted to say that we're very grateful that we've been able to work at Rochford District Council with the library service. As you know, we're putting our front counter into Rochford Library. And I think that's great, because it's presented a real good opportunity for our residents to also enhance that service. And I think that those opportunities we need to maximise where we can, because now I believe we're going to have longer opening hours in the library. I think through self-service, I think people are going to be able to use the library more in Watford. So there's a real positive from that that we've managed to get to. So as a library service, I'm hoping that we do collect feedback from the library users, and I'd have liked to have seen some of that feedback presented as well, because this is all good, but I'd like to see what customers are saying and what they're looking for as well from the service. In regards to the mobile library service, I'd have liked to have seen some of the detail around that, because we spoke about digital inclusion in the presentation today. And is that something that's offered through the mobile library service? Because I'm very aware that in those areas, a lot of people will be reaching for and need that digital inclusion skills. to be able to access a lot. Does the library service work with the digital inclusion? Jess Flack, I think, is the lead on digital inclusion. Does the library service work with her to identify gaps? And how is that fed back into not just Essex, but also into the voluntary sector? So I think that's important that we make sure it's all linked up together. And the last thing that I just want to say is one of the real frustrating things for me about the library service, and I think is the app. So when you go on the app, if you signed up, so I signed up at home and I've got my library customer number and then it says set a PIN. So you set a PIN, if you forget the PIN, you have to go into the library you can't just reset it on the app. So is that something that can be looked at on how to make it easier for people to keep using the service, but without having then to, physically go in and say, I've forgotten my details because I'm stupid. In my case, well.
They are always enhancing the features of the mobile library app. So that's something that I can feed back to them as well, about being able to, I suppose it's part of being, making that secure, isn't it? If you forget your PIN, you have to go in at the moment, but I can feed that back to them.
Yeah, I think these days it's generally accepted that you can reset things online if you've got a PIN or whatever. So I think that's something that we need to do, because that does create a barrier to continue to use the service. And some people might just go, just give up. But we want retention, don't we, in the service of.
Okay, thank you.
That's it. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks. Just on the mobile library services and digital inclusion. So the drivers go out with their laptops. They do support people who come to them. Obviously, the stops, they're not the longest time. So they might be there for 15 to 30 minutes. But they do check reservations, for example, and advise customers how to use service, and also help them with Borrow Box, the digital service. So there's an element of that. It's not massively formalised because the length of time that the stops are for, because they obviously have to cover all of Essex on a 3-week rota.
So are they able to capture that need at that point and then feed that back into Jess Flack or whoever, into that team to say, look, we've got people here that need those skills?
I think very much we could do that. So we've looked at various tracking models, and there's some technology going on at the moment around monitoring activities that take place at each stop. So that's, I guess, in the pipeline. But I'll probably have to double check on actually what's being collected, but I don't see why that couldn't be.
And we've done quite a lot of work with Jess in the past, so she works very closely with the service. She's one of our greatest advocates, I think.
I've just come in on Borrow Box. They've just mentioned Borrow Box, and I'd never heard of it until I was put on. It's something that goes hand in hand with the library app, and it enables you to borrow e-books, even magazine. You can get your GQ magazine without paying for it, and Top Gear magazine, and various things like that. So that is something that is really useful for those people that use it.
Susanna?
Thank you, Chairman. Two things, the customer feedback. So I'm passionate about getting customer feedback. It's something that I've done throughout my career. And it is incredibly difficult in this service because with regards to, as you've seen, you've got sometimes disjointed apps that are run by the organisations that we have to use, the catalogue, the library stock, etc. So we manually try to collect customer feedback at events, and we do have some from Dementia Cafe, Reading Challenge, etc. So we can share some past feedback with you. But it is a project that Julia and I are doing ongoing with regards to how we can systemize that more. Otherwise, you're reliant again on giving staff another task on the day where they've got to ask a resident to fill in a form and give us some feedback, etc. So it's something that we're always looking at how we get better at doing. You then asked about the data and the granularity of what we've presented today. We have a lot of data, absolutely happy to provide you with what you want. I think it's, to give us some idea of whether you want something by sector or, a specific library, so we can kind of pull something together, because otherwise it's just data. It's got to be made a bit more meaningful. So absolutely happy to take that away.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, councillor Steele. My honourable Chairman. Oh, absolutely. I ticked the wrong box in. Councillor Garnett.
Mine have all been answered. That's the trouble when you're last in the queue. I'd just like to make one comment, if I may. Harlow's featured very good on the presentation this morning, and that's why it is good. The library, Harlow Library, Central Library is brilliant now. As you say, sometime before it's a shortcut to get into Market Street, but now people stop, and it's a very thriving hub. So it's fun. Hope it stays where it is. There were rumours some years ago that might move it nearer the college because of the college children, but hopefully that won't happen. Thank you, Chairman.
Last winter, I'm fairly sure it was an initiative. We were encouraging libraries to be a safe, warm. First of all, how successful do you think that was? Secondly, if you felt it was successful, are we going to repeat it? Is there a budget? And what does it look like? How does it feel like?
So we run warm welcomes for 2 years now. So the first year we did have a budget. We bought lots of flasks for tea and coffee, and had that available for all customers when they came into every library. And we did the same last year, but obviously we had less of a budget because we didn't need to buy the flasks again. But very, very popular. And some of the libraries have actually carried those on, even though it's not winter now, and provide tea and coffee for people when they visit the library. And we got really good feedback from customers about that. They did really enjoy, and that a lot of the welcomes were managed by volunteers. And it was actually a popular feature for customers coming in.
And we're going to actively promote it again. Okay. When I go in from my clinic, I daren't go anywhere near the library without a couple of packets of biscuits, because I'm a well-known biscuit snaffler. So if you want your library staff on your side and you want, bring some biscuits in. Yes.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you for the presentation. Great to see a service that's on the front foot, lots of modernisation. So really pleasing. I love a library. It all totally makes sense. To me, it's Essex ECC's footprint in every town and large village across the county. So that's invaluable in terms of being able to talk about the help that we can give our residents. So following on from that, Jeff, you said that there were ambassadors in every quadrant.
So community connectors, so in each quadrant, they're led by the literacy lead, who it's a recent, so we just had a new one start, so I've been looking after community connectors. We have just filled 2 vacancies there, so there were vacancies in North and Mid, but they actually start on the 29th of this month.
Okay. Can I ask how often you sort of train them and brief them, and what Essex is such a massive organisation, isn't it? And how to sort of keep them up to date on what's going on in, social services, public health. So do you do sort of regular briefing and training sessions?
Yes, we do. So my background prior to ECC was in mental health employability. So I actually brought loads of contacts. We're involved in each quadrant. There are various, for example, there's a South Essex localities working group, which is adult social care led. So the community connector for South is part of that, as I am that network. So lots of services talking to each other. That's replicated across the whole of Essex, and where we've had gaps with community connectors, I've kind of filled those for the time. We are working with or about to start working a bit more closely with the communities team within ECC, starting their own connectors program, and also with Active Essex. So they have their own. We'll be getting asset-based community development training for our community connectors as part of that closer working. So actually really quite active. We have monthly check-ins, or monthly meetings, I should say, where we all meet up in Whittam in Freeborns and discuss what's going on. And then as their line manager, we just have constant check-in and chats and so on. So
good. Can I just ask one more question? So you were talking about teenagers and young adults. So do you sort of promote to sixth forms? I'm thinking of so both my sons did level. So there was, when they write an essay, they had to have there was a massive reading list. So that's when they started using the library. And they would reserve not too many, and they always picked up. I just wanted to add that. So do you sort of try to reach those kids that are doing sort of subjects like that, doing A-level?
So there's on locations basis. So for example, Saffron Walden, they're quite active with the local sixth form there. Juliet mentioned Hatfield Peveril Library. They're talking to the local sixth form around what would they like from a homework club. So lots of very local stuff. What we find in places like Chelmsford, for example, so if you go into the library at lunchtime, it will be full of teenagers. They won't be checking out books, but they'll be using services, whether that's free Wi-Fi or the kind of more welcomes aspect. So we are very actively looking at how we can increase what we do and who we engage with. Some of that's led by the community connectors, so they will do visits to anything from nurseries. I was visiting nurseries last week. I'm not necessarily the person the kids want to see, but they'll go from nurseries to sixth form. One of our community connectors was doing a careers talk to primary school students the other day, so obviously that's replicated throughout age groups. So wherever there's a need, then
we do have staff as well go out to the sixth forms, talk to the sixth forms and engage with the sixth formers.
Yeah, because as you say, Jeff, if you go to Chelmsford Library at certain times of the day, it's packed with sixth form students, isn't it? And it's great to see actually because it's full and buzzing, and so you know, maybe you could sort of take the university library concept as a cafe and I think would be good.
Yeah, and that's why our all through residents this year, we said we wanted them to focus on that age group as well, to ask to engage with the teenagers to find out what they want from the library service that would make it a place that they would want to come and visit.
Free Wi-Fi.
Well, we've got that.
Great, thank you.
When we went through a darker period, there was criticism of the library service in relation to the amount of people and the amount of qualified librarians. I think it's fairly obvious to anybody that's listening to this, whether they're in the meeting or afterwards, is I think we're doing the right thing. I think an odd thing about libraries is the fact they're called libraries. Because it has a stereotype to it, and quite clearly what we're trying to achieve and what you're achieving is a real sea change, I think, for the good and for the better, and I think many other people will agree with me on that. So is there any, so if you can imagine, if someone said to me, well, there aren't many librarians, I would probably go so far as to say that hasn't such an issue. But that's such a big issue. But of course, we're now moving into a different area of expertise in terms of your staff. You've said 2 or 3 times how good your staff are and how they're adapting. Is there any comment that I can go back with to my residents and saying, well, apart from the fact that it's that our staff, our teams are now becoming more skilled in a positive way, other than just librarians. I don't know whether I'm making sense on that, but is that something that you are aiming at? And is it something that's measurable to say, well, we have ex-librarians, but we also have, I don't know, care package people, individuals. You've got your Barclays people coming in that must have some sort of financial. Is there anything like that planned for the future?
I know the team will come in. You're quite right. Library staff have changed. It's previously it's been people cataloguing using the Dewey system, and that was the nub of it. And most of our staff, they're concentrating on customer service plus some of the additional skills they need to address what people want now. I'll let whoever's going to, Susanna.
I'll come at this point and say that what we're trying to do is really reflect what our residents want, and I think as we've pointed out today, that the space is being used in different ways. So gathering that insight and intelligence and making sure we are reacting to the community needs and the work that the area manager team are doing on, making sure that the sense of place where their library is placed in that quadrant, because the different communities have different needs is really, really important. What I think I would, be keen to have feedback on is if there's a gap from residents, if there's a need we're not filling, that's what's important rather than, a specific qualification, because quite rightly, as you say, with the change in the service and us creating a modern, vibrant, really relevant service, there isn't, we make sure staff know that they can do a qualification. We're really always making sure that's available to staff, but we can't force them to do it. And actually, if there isn't deemed to be a need, then actually people are going, well, actually, this is what I need to do, and that this is an area I want to get qualified in. So I think it's really important to sort of recognise how the residents' needs are changing and putting in place the services and the skills and capabilities of the staff that reflect those needs.
Jump in there as well, Susan. Is that okay? I think you're spot on with some of the changes that happen across the library service. As a sort of single statement, we still have qualified librarians in our libraries, but as part of the induction and the training that happens with the staff in libraries now, it does include things such as Alzheimer's Society training, dementia friends training, domestic abuse training. With that whole induction programme has really started to change to broaden the offer of what library staff can give that advice and guidance around, and how we engage and identify some of those issues as we're supporting residents in the library.
Jeff. And then when we advertise for new staff, as you saw Jay in the last video, we're attracting people from a far broader section of society to come and work in libraries. So that says something about the service and how people see it modernising and changing and adapting. But it also brings new skills. So we're qualified librarians are absolutely important, essential, fantastic people, but there is so much more to libraries now, and I think we see that in our recruitment as well. We're also looking at some inclusive recruitment where possible, so more inclusive practices. So we are looking to represent the whole of Essex in the best way possible.
We have been, we do have staff as well that are doing apprenticeships in customer service, volunteer management, and there is an information an apprenticeship as well that existing staff can do. So there's a whole variety of skills that we are bringing into the service now, and recognising from it within existing staff as well that perhaps have the opportunity to be able to use those skills in the past.
I think, Chairman, from my initial comment, the recent restructure gave the opportunity to recruit from outside. You already heard what the area that Jeff came from, and we've had people from other sectors, somebody with senior retail experience, and this all brings additional skills and perhaps a new way of looking at things, and that has been really significant. Having a wider scope on the actual service.
Okay. Right. From a personal point of view, I think everybody knows of my connection with children with special needs. I'm involved with a couple of schools and an academy. Don't forget those, that they are a very good source of customer in terms of coming to see you, but also at some stage you may want to consider. I'm fairly sure this is the case. About 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 years ago, Clacton used to have little cafe downstairs that was run by a group, I think, and just to let you know, at Marketfield School that I'm involved with, we run a cafe at the Chaywick site. And of course, we very soon will be able to visit our farm at Elmsford Market, where there will also be a cafe. So, okay. Councillor Deakin.
Oh, yes, thank you. If I may, you mentioned the community connectors. Could those community connectors make themselves known to the county councillors within their quadrants, please?
Yes, please. We'll probably have done.
Councillor Durham, do you want to summarise?
No, Chairman, I think I've sort of chipped in as we went along. I mean, it's really nice to be able to demonstrate, you know, that we have a really vibrant, more importantly, a modern library service, a service that reacts to actually what people want. Gone are the days of hushed environments and dusty shelves with just books to borrow. Those days are gone, as you've heard. We are welcoming people from all sectors, you know, right from birth upwards. And just one, you know, as I said, we sort of made light of the Santa thing. I was Santa for a day, both at Mersey Library, and then I went on to Greenstead, and you know, they're two ends of the spectrum. It was really interesting seeing the different types of customer that came to see Santa, sorry. And you know, it was actually one of the highlights of my year. I just, you know, I do it for a couple of other charities as well, but engaging with the kids and seeing their face, and every single one is given a free present, and it's not a nasty little toy, it is a proper book that everyone is given, and you know, particularly at Greenstead, that was particularly welcomed, and I might even be persuaded to do it again this year if time allows, along with Councillor Hartwell.
I'll be an elf, shall I?
Well, yeah, on that point, when I was on the bus, there were two helpers, two ladies from finance who were using their volunteering days, and they were spending time as sort of the helpers and organisers, and I can't remember what the numbers were, but a huge number of staff and officers from this organisation, you know, gave up their time, and I think they will have, you know, as much fun as I did, to be quite honest. And I think you know, it's a really important thing that officers from completely diverse parts of this organisation get to engage firsthand and see the library service at work.
Okay, I think just to remind ourselves, scrutiny is about scrutiny. It's about an exchange of ideas. And if you have a scrutiny meeting where the scrutineers come away having learned something, having picked up something, having had the opportunity to make their point, and spoken to a knowledgeable team, and obviously an enthusiastic team, I think both sides and both parties have gains from this morning. And I think I'll be blunt, it's one of the nicest and probably best sessions we've had. And that's because of your willingness to engage. And I think also at the same time that all the members around the table, as James Newport said, it's one of the few things I haven't had a complaint about. Believe me, that's a blessing. So I'd like to thank you all for coming. We'll invite you back again, please. And if you have some ideas you want to exchange, please. I can move on to the date of the next meeting, which is Thursday, the 19th of September, same place, same time, County Hall. There is no other urgent business. I'd like to thank Lisa. Lisa, thanks for your help again, as always. Just beavers away in there. There's a little problem now and again, she just gets on and does with it. And I'm really embarrassed, I forgot to thank Dave Blackwell for his period of time as Vice Chairman. Dave, thanks for your chairman. It's always welcome. And you've got one carrying on and one moving. So we're looking forward to it. So thank you for your time. Thank you for all attending. Have a safe journey.